So regarding aerodrome emergency exercise, it's stated in IKO Annex 14, Aerodromes Volume 1, Aerodrome Design and Operation. It also been elaborated in details in IKO Airport Services Manual .9137, parts airport emergency planning. So if you want to refer the details of the how we want to organize any exercise at any airport, we can refer in these two documents. On our national regulation, we have Civil Aviation Aerodrome Operation Amendment Regulation 2018, or in bahasa Peraturan Penerbangan Awam Pengendalian Aerodrome Pindaan 2018. They also mention about emergency planning in National Aeronautical and Maritime Search and Rescue Manual, as well in our Directive National Security Council Directive number 20. Mechanism in managing disaster. On our side, as airport operator, we also mention on our aerodrome emergency exercise in aerodrome manual, aerodrome emergency plan, as well as airport fire and rescue service SOP 09 AFRS, organizing aerodrome emergency exercise. Apart from that, we also can do some revision to Airport Council International Handbook. We have two handbooks here: Emergency Preparedness and Contingency Planning Handbook, as well as Managing Rescue and Firefighting Services at Airports. So generally, aviation industry is beautiful, it's governed from international as well as the national level. But we also can find some international best practices in ACI handbooks as well. Okay, a little bit about our requirements. So we go into details. What is aerodrome emergency plan? So why we need aerodrome emergency plan? It's stated in IKO Annex 14, 9.1.1, an aerodrome emergency plan shall be established at an aerodrome commensurate with the aircraft operation and other activities conducted at the aerodrome. So as we know, the word shall means compulsory. Compulsory, no excuse. We need to comply at national level. In Malaysia, under our Civil Aviation Aerodrome Operation Amendment Regulation 2018, Peraturan 31/1 pengendali aerodrome hendaklah mengadakan pelan kecemasan aerodrome di aerodrome mengikut apa-apa kehendak sebagaimana yang ditentukan oleh Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif pihak berkuasa penerbangan awam Malaysia. As mentioned in our Civil Aviation Regulation that all airport operator shall prepare an aerodrome emergency plan according to the instruction by the Chief Executive Officer of Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. Why we need this AEP or aerodrome emergency plan? First and foremost, the objective is to saving life. The fast you respond, the more life you can save. Second is to minimize effect of any emergency at the airport. And last but not least, to maintain the aircraft operation. The most crucial time in managing emergency is the transition period from normal to emergency, as well as from emergency to normal. That is the most crucial, the transition period between that period. In terms of aerodrome emergency exercise, it also mentioned in Annex 14, 9.1.12, the plan. The plan is referring to the aerodrome emergency plan. The plan shall contain procedures for periodic testing of the adequacy of the plan and for reviewing the results in order to improve its effectiveness. So in Malaysia, under Civil Aviation Aerodrome Operation Regulation 2018, Peraturan 31/2 Pelan Kecemasan Aerodrome hendaklah termasuk peruntukan tentang A. Latihan Kecemasan Aerodrome, B. Pusat Pengendalian Kecemasan, dan C. Pos Kawalan Bergerak. So it mentioned in our Civil Aviation Regulation that aerodrome emergency plan must include provision of A. Aerodrome emergency exercise, B. Emergency Operation Center, and C. Mobile Command Post. So what is the purpose of aerodrome emergency exercise, or EAX? Is definitely to test the aerodrome emergency plan, and any emergency plan shall be tested to ensure the effectiveness of the plan. So it's a living document. It shall be tested accordingly and timely. Apart from that, we also testing the emergency equipment and communication during the emergency, as well as to test the response of all internal departments and external agencies. So this is the requirement stated at international and national level. So we go, normally it's a cycle of emergency management before, during, and after. What we define before an emergency. Before an emergency is a pre-planning process. Pre-planning process during emergency is the operation during the emergency, and last, after the emergency, support and documentation after the emergency. So where is emergency exercise located? So it's located during the pre-planning before an emergency. So the emergency exercise also have a cycle. We start with exercise planning, exercise implementation, and exercise evaluation. So we can get the details on this planning in ASM Part 7, Airport Emergency Planning. So in aviation, we have 4 types of exercise. Number 1 is full-scale exercise, which is to ensure the adequacy of the overall plan to cope with different types of emergencies. Second one, partial exercise, to ensure the adequacy of the response to individual participating agencies and components of the plan. The third one, modular test, to enable concentrated effort on specific components of established emergency plans. And last but not least, tabletop exercise, to test of the integration and capability of emergency response resources before trying in the field. So this is the basic exercise to be conducted by all airport operators throughout the world. We have 4. So in details, based on the documents, how we want to organize and execute this exercise. So for full scale, we have 3 options here. Number 1, full-scale and partial exercise mentioned in IKO and X14. A full-scale aerodrome emergency exercise at intervals not exceeding 2 years, and partial exercises in the intervening year. So this is an example how we put the aerodrome emergency exercise in our annual plan. So year 1, you conduct full-scale, year 2, partial, year 3, full-scale. And another option in Annex 14, full-scale and modular tests, a series of modular tests commencing in the first year and concluding in a full-scale aerodrome emergency exercise at intervals not exceeding 3 years. So this is how we conduct the modular test. So by module. So it's up. I will show some example from UAE and the UK. how they organize implementing this modular test. However, in Malaysia, we are not choosing this option. So we start in year 1 with a few modules, for example, 3 modules, year 2, 4 modules, and year 3, a few modules, and concluded with a full-scale exercise. So we have another option, as mentioned in Airport Services Manual Part 7, full-scale exercise, partial exercise, and tabletop exercise, whereby on top of full-scale and partial, we need to conduct tabletop exercise at least once each 6 months, except during that 6-month period when a full-scale exercise is held. So this is an example how we plan the emergency exercise, year 1, TTX 1, and full-scale exercise. Because we relate to the statement in ASM Part 7 that in the year we conducting full-scale exercise, we just need to conduct at least 1 tabletop exercise during that year. And year 2, where we organize the partial exercise, we need to organize another 2 tabletop exercise. And the cycle repeated again, year 3, 4, 5, and 7. So we restart again, for example, in year 3, 1 tabletop exercise and 1 full-scale exercise. So this is an example. I will show some example in KL International Airport, or KUL. So in KUL, we divided the exercise into odd years and even years. So odd years, we conducted partial exercise, tabletop exercise twice, fire evacuation drill. We have 5 fire evacuation drill for our critical installation, including our passenger terminal building. And for even years, like 2020, for example, we need to conduct full-scale exercise. Since we have 3 runways, we do it alternately every 2 years. And despite of IKO mentioned one tabletop only, but we do it twice, even though during full-scale exercise. We also conducting a fire evacuation drill at our 5 structural or buildings. So in total, every year, Airport Fire and Rescue Service organizing 8 exercises. But these 8 exercises is not including exercises organized by other stakeholders, as well as regarding the security elements. It's up to the contracting state. For example, Changi, they are doing full-scale exercise every year. It's more than the minimum frequency stated by CO. It's more, even better, to conduct full-scale exercise every year. It's up to the contracting state how they want to enforce all these exercise at the airport level in their country. So we go one by one. I will explain how we, what is tabletop exercise, what is module test, what is partial exercise, what is full-scale exercise in the normal way, then followed by the new norm. So as mentioned in ASM Part 7, tabletop exercise is a test to integration and capability of emergency response. So normally we conduct this exercise to reconfirm, number 1, procedures, number 2, policy, 3, telephone numbers, 4, radio frequencies, and 5, changes in key personnel. So actually, by conducting this tabletop exercise, is very less in expenses, also less in disruption of services. Tabletop exercise is the most simplest drill to organize, because at minimum we require only 1 meeting room, a large scale map or tactical table, a senior representative from each participating unit. Maybe we can simulate the scenario on the tactical table itself. So all respective units or agency will respond accordingly to the scenario set by the exercise control team. So why we have this tabletop exercise? It will reveal reveal operational problems such as conflicting communication frequencies, lack of equipment, confusing terminology, and areas of jurisdiction. So it's need to be conducted semi-annually every 6 months. So this is example of how we organize tabletop exercise during normal days. So our last big scale tabletop exercise was in 2018, together with the full scale exercise. So my roles during this exercise is as the exercise director as well as exercise facilitator. So this is how we conduct the full scale exercise. Normally we'll start with webinar, second day tabletop exercise, and third day full scale exercise. It's to ensure the momentum of all agencies during the exercise. Okay. Oh, jadi ni je lah masa boleh berehat. Taktik dia macam ni. So normally we divided players into location by table. Table for crash site, table for crisis control center, table for a disaster unit, table for terminal emergency center. Then we have very good involvement, excellent involvement from all agencies as per whole Aerodrome emergency plan. Approximately more than 100 player and observer in this exercise. So we use slide presentation to deliver our scenario. It's kind of a hybrid tabletop exercise because we do it by slide presentation as well as a real tactical table option. So that is our evaluators. The evaluators was from National Disaster Management Agency, from Civil Aviation Authority, and Selangor Disaster Management Unit. So all are external evaluators. So this is the big pictures of the exercise. Okay, that is about tabletop exercise. So we go to partial exercise, as mentioned in Annex 14 as well as ASM Part 7. The scope of partial exercise is 1, to train new personnel, 2, evaluate new equipment or technique, Third, comply with mandatory recurrent training to correct any deficiency found during full-scale exercise or actual emergency. So if all those findings during full-scale exercise or during a real incident, we might test it again during or using partial exercise. So as mentioned, the frequency is at least once each year that a full-scale exercise is not held or as required to maintain proficiency. So at least once. If you want to do more, it's even better. So it may involve single agency or multiple agencies or combination of agency. Depend on our objective as well as our scenario. One of example of partial exercise, we conducted a partial exercise at our area of responsibility. We have 2 balancing point. So since we don't have adequate boats at AFRS, we test the response and asset that belong to our external agency. For example, our Jabatan Bomber dan Minyak Malaysia, our Fire and Rescue Department of Malaysia, as well as our Angkatan Pertahanan Awam Malaysia or Malaysia Civil Defence Force. This is one example of partial exercise. You also can conduct partial exercise regarding communication, rendezvous point, terminal emergency center, managing casualty, managing next of kin or family. Also, it's very broad. Very broad. You can choose what type of scenario that you need to exercise. Modular test, even though it's not implemented in Malaysia, but I share what I got from example from other countries. For example, in the UK, they conduct this modular test. They have 10 modules, including the last modules is live full-scale exercise. So every modules have specific objective. But at the end, as mentioned in IKO Annex 14, we need to conclude the modular test by conducting live full-scale exercise. Another example from United Arab Emirates by the General Civil Aviation Authority, they use 9 modules instead of 10, like the UK. They have 9 modules, and the last module is a full-scale exercise. So they have sort of specific modules to be conducted within the 3 years, like mentioned in IKO Annex 14. But we did not use this option in Malaysia. So last but not least is the full-scale exercise. As we know, the details in how we organize aerodrome full-scale exercise is in the ASM Part 7, Airport Emergency Planning, whereby IKO has details on the at least 120 days to prepare and organize this full-scale exercise. This is the common guideline. If you do it earlier, then it's much more better, because full-scale exercise will involve so many scope and so many agencies. So we need to do the proper coordination among the agencies. Maybe we need to engage some agencies, maybe one by one, to organize this full-scale exercise. So I will share some example of full-scale exercise in KL International Airport. So this exercise was conducted during night. So we did the full-scale exercise during night ini every 5 years. Organizing full-scale exercise during night time is very challenges, especially in managing the role player for casualties, because they will be outside on the open area. They might facing insect or binatang-binatang berbisa. So this is our role player for next of kin or family. They did a excellent job as the next of kin. So media management also important, especially in managing emergency and emergency. Okay, a little bit about full scale. So now we go to the climax of this session, the new norm, how we're adapting the emergency exercise to the new norm. So last year, despite a very challenging year, as we have some exemption from the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, because we're supposed to conduct a full-scale exercise last year, but since the situation is not really good, the Civil Aviation Authority agreed to carry forward. Kalau orang Melayu cakap kodok lah. Kodok, kena kodok tahun ni. Jadi kita kodok lah dia punya full-scale exercise tu. Tahun ni lah insya-Allah bulan 8. But despite of that challenging period last year, we still managed because we still conducting the tabletop exercise. The building emergency drill just before lockdown. Our lockdown in Malaysia started on 18th of March 2020. And in between that, so everything is lots of restriction here. But in order to manage our staff, especially the Airport Fire and Rescue Service staff, here in KL International Airport, we still try to manage their preparedness and resilience by conducting our first electronic tabletop exercise. But the unique about this electronic tabletop exercise is we do it in competition mode. Exercise plus competition. So since despite of, as we know, physical fitness is important as well as mental fitness. So by having this kind of competition, we try to keep up our staff morale during those challenging period by doing some even though it's a competition, but still relate to their roles and responsibility in managing emergency. So we have here we have squad, we call it squad, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. So we divided into a few teams. Some involved in the first tabletop challenge and another half involved in the second one. We connected. If you can see, we still managed to conduct between it's a two times tabletop exercise, but in between January and June, the first tabletop exercise, July to December, one tabletop exercise. So it's still complying to the IKO requirement, despite of having that kind of tabletop challenge. Okay, the scenario is about aircraft crash during pandemic, and in the end of 2020, we do some tunnel rescue drill, very close drill, just between our the AFRS and our engineering team only. Tunnel rescue drill. See what we can do. Why this emergency exercise is still important, even though it's during pandemic. It's still important because it's about compliance. Number one. It's number compliance to the IKO, as well as compliance to the national act and regulation. So by hook or by crook, we need to conduct it, unless we were given some exemption by local CAA. Second one is the continuity of the flight operation. Even though we are having a very less flight movement, but there was, until today, we still have flight movement at KL International Airport per se. So there is a need to maintain our staff preparedness and resilience, even though during a low flight movement. So it's about continuity. Okay. COVID-19, as we know, aircraft accident happens at any time, at any place. It can happen anywhere, anytime. No exclusion. During COVID-19, there is no air crash. No, still air crash happen. So we need to test our team here at the airport. Change. It's about change. It's a 1 year. It's almost coming to 2 years of pandemic COVID-19. People change, especially the government agencies. For example, in KLIA, the officer in charge of police district change. The zone head of fire rescue department change. The civil defense district officer also change. Even our Sepang district officer also change. And the most changes is our airport manager also changed last year. So we have 5 key personnel changes last year. So it's important for the new key personnel to understand the aerodrome emergency plan by involving or participating in this aerodrome emergency exercise. That's why this AEX is still important. Last but not least, is shows our credibility as airport operator in ensuring safety is the most priority at the airports. So have five reasons why AEX remains important even though during COVID-19. This is our normal ways conducting tabletop exercise. We have all people in one room, for not really one room. For example, in this picture shown, we open up 3 rooms to accommodate a huge numbers of participants, including players, observer, evaluators, as well as the exercise control team. So more than 100 participants during the day. So how we want to organize this tabletop exercise in the new norm? So we can use, execute by using the technologies. So even meeting also change from a physical meeting to an online meeting. So same goes with tabletop exercise. We can change from the normal mode to the new norm mode. So I will share a little bit how we can do it, how we can conduct this tabletop exercise during COVID-19. So most of the airports, they have this simulation, emergency or disaster simulation. This is a good example, simulation software. if you have this kind of software, then definitely will you give some more impact, because it can simulate so many situation that we can we need to test our team. But there are some limitation in terms of number of people to involve and how other people without the software to participate. Especially in managing airports, we are is a unified command. So we involve many agencies in managing any emergency at the airport. So we require more people to involve in this tabletop exercise. But the simulation, the impact is more lah, because a very structured software. Then this kind of software, they have some annual fee to what, to subscribe to this kind of online platform. But what we can do, because IKO need to tackle whole country, all contracting state, whether it's a developed country, even a developing country. So what are the options that we have? We can also use communication software as the platform to organize this online tabletop exercise. So we have like Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, also Zooms. But in Malaysia Airport, since we are mainly using Microsoft Teams as our meeting platform, so for this kind of exercise or tabletop exercise, we are using Microsoft Teams as the platform. So what are the options? Either you can conduct the tabletop exercise within the rescue and firefighting services among the AFRS team, what like we did before, or among the airport operator between the rescue and firefighting service, as well as other department or division within the airport operator. Or in a larger scale, we can do with all agencies as stated in the local aerodrome emergency plan. So involving the airport operator as well as external agency. So we did both the first option as well as the third option. The third option, like the background photo, we did the exercise Selang Merah last week, just last week, involving about 300 participants. It's very interesting last week. So we learned a lot. We found a few gaps that we can rectify in our next coming tabletop exercise. Okay, as an exercise, normally exercise will have the composition. So in normal tabletop exercise, or even virtual tabletop exercise or online tabletop exercise, we have a role of exercise director. Exercise director is the mastermind of this tabletop exercise. It will set the objective, will set the scenario accordingly to meet the current objective or situation. For example, if during COVID-19, we can set the objective as managing aircraft accident during COVID-19. Then we have exercise controller. Exercise controller also play a key roles. They together with the exercise facilitator, they will prepare the scenario, messages, as well as all the questions needs during the tabletop exercise. Then definitely we need exercise player. So like I mentioned before, either you can do it internally, also you can do it with external agencies. But I would suggest to do it with external agencies, because Aerodrome emergency plan is about gathering the airport community in managing emergency. So I would suggest to conduct the tabletop exercise with external agencies. Another role is exercise evaluator. So exercise evaluator will evaluate um, the process of tabletop exercise. They will give their inputs or feedbacks at the end of the exercise, not during the exercise. And we have also invited observer, exercise observer. So this participant or observer, they will not give any feedbacks, even during, also at the end of the exercise, because observer, their roles is to observe and just to learn. If we give the opportunity to observe, the exercise will prolong. Definitely will prolong. We cannot complete or to end the exercise as scheduled. But the most important, the blue line in the middle of the slide is the exercise type controller. So the controller will consist of like what we did last week. We have three controllers managing the slide presentation, managing the player, managing the chat response in the chat group. So we need a few controllers to run the exercise smoothly. So this is the composition of an online tabletop exercise, for example. So it depends how big is your exercise, how many people do you have. You can even combine the composition. Exercise controller can be exercise facilitator as well, or exercise director also can be exercise facilitator. Then as long you achieve the objective set at the beginning of the pre-planning. So how we construct the flow of the exercise. We have this master schedule of event. So we determine the flow by having this kind of template. Okay, I get the pointer. So this we call it in short MSE. MSE. So before we do some shooting of the video, before we prepare the slide presentation, normally we will sit down together and craft in easy word is this MSE is a storyboard. So how we want to go, we want to put the flow of the event, the chronological log of event during any emergency. So by having this MSE, you can set, for example, by messages. So normally for 2 hours tabletop exercise, at maximum 3 messages only. This is an example for message. So duration for each message. So how the controller or the facilitator want to facilitate this message. Just within 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it is up to the how many questions, how many discussion to be conducted during that message, the respective message. Why this duration is important? Because we have allocate the time, because we don't want other agency feel burden to participate in the exercise. If we say it start at 10 and finish at 12 o'clock, we need to fulfill what we have promised to the invited guest or participant. So by having this duration in the MSE, we can control the pace of the tabletop exercise. If let's say it's too fast, you can make it slow. If too slow, you can what tekan minyak sikit lah. Tekan minyak sikit. Nak cakap orang putih tak berapa, ingat sikit kan. Kalau slow sangat, tekan minyak. Kalau laju sangat, kita tekan brake sikit lah. Jadi kita control by having this. So normally the MSE is hold by the exercise controller. So normally what we did here, the exercise controller will stand behind the exercise facilitator. He will advise at the back. Okay, sir, too fast. Sir, too slow. Sir, next. Oh, sir, you missed the question. So because facilitator cannot be at his own, he or she own. Okay? He needs some assistance. So exercise controller will assist the facilitator by using this MSE or storyboard. So this time, okay, what time we start and what time we should finish for each message and agency. So by deciding or putting this agency in this column D, we will ensure all invited agencies are given the opportunity to speak. If let's say we miss, for example, we miss Royal Mission Police, then we feel frustrated because he was invited as the player, but there is no question given to him. So by having this MSE, we will ensure no agency left behind during tabletop exercise. So area also we can dictate which area this agency should be located. I mean, because in our normal, we put the agencies in tables. Table for crash site, table for crisis control center, table for mobile command post, for example. So each message have their own description. It may not appear at the slide presentation, or as we mainly using Microsoft PowerPoints to run the exercise. But it can be translated into videos as well. So this is a few questions. Question also flexible and dynamic according to the answer given by the players. This is a guideline. So you can complete the question and answer during the allocated period in the respective message. So for each messages, we have media injection. So we have a fully videos in our Microsoft or our slide presentation. So we strategize. What is the message? What is the video for this message? For example, message 1, the video is about situation at AFRS watchroom, and the crash alarm will be sounded. Message number 2, video on AFRS turnout with the fire vehicles. Message number 3, video at a situation at airport operation control center and some photos of our VVIP complex. And last message, for example, video regarding external agency arrive at the crash site. If it is even better if our MSE have the expected action, so it will give some guidance to the facilitator. Is it the response or the answer, is it correct according AEP or not? So we can compare and put in our report, or we can advise the exercise evaluator. Exercise evaluator also should be given this MSE. So they will have some guidance throughout the tabletop exercise. Need to go fast because I have my vaccination turn at 12 o'clock. So, okay, these are a few example. video prepared. So all those videos in our slide presentation is prepared in-house by our firefighters. We are not contract out to other people, or we pay external party. No. Since nowadays people have their handphone, people also keen to take videos, photos, then we utilize our personnel competency on dia apa kata, dia punya minat lah. So kalau dia minat tu mudah dia nak buat video tu. Interest, dia interest, or even they have hobbies like they have their own YouTube channel, for example. So this is a few media injection that used before.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Semoga anda sihat-sihat dan ceria selalu di samping orang yang tersayang. Tinjauan keadaan cuaca pada pagi ini menunjukkan keadaan cuaca cerah di seluruh negara, Semenanjung Malaysia,
So the actor inside the video is our fire
Untuk
officer.
butiran selanjutnya, kita ke paparan imej satelit di Asia Tenggara.
So I think everybody throughout the world so have
the
ability to produce
kelompok
good
awan
video.
di Perairan Selat Melaka dan kawasan pesisir pantai negeri Perak dan juga Selangor. Sementara itu, pada sebelah petang dijangka keadaan cuaca lembap dengan hujan lebat di kawasan Kala'i.
Heavy rain, inside the studio.
Di Muara Padang banyak buaya timbul, manusia lari. Virus corona sungguh berbahaya. Marilah bersama menjaga diri. #kita jaga kita. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
AFRS Tower West, local standby di runway 33.
So it's a telephone conversation
between runway 33, pesawat kerosakan dan ETA. Pesawat Eco Airline XX2468 kegagalan hidrolik. ETA 5 minit. Raja, pesawat Eco Airline XX2468 kerosakan kegagalan hidrolik. ETA 5 minit.
So we combine the actual footage and some graphic inside. The aircraft is graphic, fire also graphic. The fire brigade is the actual footage. So definitely the video need to be planned properly. Plus some viral at social media also. Using still photo, later video. Okay, this is the software used by our team. So for the platform, we use Microsoft PowerPoint. For producing video, we use KineMaster. There's so many option you have in our mobile phone. You can choose whatever apps that you feel easy to use. Then we also utilizing Microsoft Flight Simulator for our media injection. So, but most important is the knowledge of how to use those software, the skill. Because if you don't have the skill, you cannot produce a good presentation as well as good video. Then last but not least, the creativity also, because the angle of the footage, the flow of the footage needs some creativity. Otherwise, the video will be dull and not interesting. Yeah. So this is our experience. Last year, like I mentioned before, we conducted ETTX challenge. So it's an exercise for competition. The platform is still same, Microsoft Teams, duration about 2 hours, scenario aircraft crash on airport. So early this year, the first half of 2021, we conducted tabletop exercise still, but it's not a competition. We do it as an exercise. We involve all parties, all of the staff, incident commander, commanding officer, duty officer, watchroom officer, and firefighter even. And recently, we rebrand from ETTX to VTTX. It's quite. Indonesia also they're using VTTX, a virtual tabletop exercise. So last week, last Wednesday, exercise, but this one special involving all AP stakeholders. Even though it's a few players, but we have more than 250 participant or observer. At one time, it reached 300 participant during the last week exercise. But the beauty is the number of exercise control team is almost the same. We don't require additional manpower. We can utilize among the numbers below 10 staff. So what is the challenges? Definitely by online, we have challenges. We have experienced some difficulties last week, especially on the internet coverage, either from the controller itself or even the player. I mean, the internet coverage for the player. They might join from their home. So their home might be the internet coverage is not well. So it's at any point of time it interrupt the process because it will slow down the flow or the process of tabletop exercise. Then the app limitation, like I mentioned before, you can see the photo I share here, in the black color. Mention this meeting is no longer available. When we are using Microsoft Teams, there are some limits of participant. So when the participant reach 310, if I'm not mistaken, suddenly the Microsoft Teams stop. Because we already reached the limits of the participant. So, however, we can restart again without due, but it's kind of we need to understand well the type of application that we want to use before we even issue the invitation to external agencies. So if we need to send more participants, then make sure our apps is able to accommodate such numbers of participants. And the third one is the user awareness. It's also important. Some people not fully aware how to use the meeting platform. For example, not how to use Microsoft Teams, because maybe they are using Zoom or other platform to conduct the meeting. So maybe they're new to the apps. Maybe they rarely use or communicate online, because if we need to communicate through online, definitely maybe to ensure that you have a headphone, so headphone and microphone, so the noise will be reduced using the microphone. Maybe we cannot sit together with a few participants because there will some echo when we try to talk, there will be an echo during the conversation. So user awareness also important is a challenges for us, maybe because we have some ethics to be adhere. For example, if we just on the microphone when we want to talk. If we don't want to talk, we need to silence the microphone. That is a basic one of the ethics using media, using online meeting. So last but not least, definitely lah, I touch on the ergonomics part, the posture of the sitting, the eyes, eye irritants, because it's a long period of process of the tabletop exercise. So make sure when we involve, we participate, or we organize, make sure we have a very good posture to ensure our ergonomics. And the exposure to the eyes, the screen light. So maybe the basic principle to have a break after 30 minutes or 45 minutes. This is important. So we can rest our eyes a little bit during the tabletop exercise period. Some example, not on the last week, the early tabletop exercise this year. We use flight simulator to simulate the scenario, aircraft crash scenario. So this is the participant as well as controller. We are using Microsoft Teams. So that's me, advisor, director, So this is our controller. Normally controllers, we have 4 laptops. One controller, because when one player need to answer the question, we need to spotlight the player. So other players also can see the face of the player. So this is very internal one. We did AFRS, but at a different roles. Simulation. So we divided our player into 4 rooms. So we still adhere the social distancing, face mask, etc. We also trying our Lean Six Sigma project, our casualty information board. We also applying the touch screen tactical board. There's some simulation for our firefighter on their fire vehicle positioning, as well as some demonstration of CPR, because it is a hybrid tabletop exercise, electronic plus physical. So we are using e-form for the critic form for the evaluators. Jadi dengan itu saya menutup electronic tabletop exercise siri 1 2021 dengan wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Sampai jumpa lagi. Our session is not finished. Just now I share about tabletop exercise. We go for the last topic, the full scale exercise. What other airport did during the pandemic last year? So for Changi, on 18 November 2020, they still conducting full-scale exercise involving 23 agencies. What is the mitigation for COVID-19? They replace the role players. Normally, we use a human as the role players for casualties, but in Changi, they replace with dummies and cards or mannequin. So cards. So each cards and dummies, they put some description of casualties, what type of the injury, etc. So for the crisis management group, they are not attending the emergency physically, but they did a video conferencing. Yeah, same goes with the pilot interviews as well as briefing to casualty next of kin. In Hong Kong, I think we have Mr. Bruce from Hong Kong in this session. In Hong Kong, on 20th November 2020, they also did full-scale exercise involving 18 agencies. What is the COVID-19 control measure? They reducing number of participants. They do the temperature check as well as enforcing face masks, and they maintain the appropriate physical distancing as well as provision of sufficient hand sanitizer at passenger reception center and family reception center. While in Doha, Qatar, on 3rd December 2020, they have scenarios on grounded aircraft emergency. The full-scale exercise involving 14 agencies. But what they did in Doha is beyond expectation. All participants need to do PCR testing, the swab test, 48 hours prior to the exercise. Marvelous. But the emergency operation center and crisis media center were activated virtually, no physical. I mean, they did not attend the EOC and media center physically, but they did virtually, and also enforcing the usage of PPE and physical distancing. So other part of the world also still conducting full-scale exercise. It's why this year Malaysia airports, specifically KL International Airport, will organize the full-scale exercise schedule in August, inshallah. If the situation permitted, then we will execute the full-scale exercise in August. But still, as I mentioned before, the new cases still at 6,000. We will see lah what is the progress in the next 2 months. So what we can do in organizing full-scale exercise despite this COVID-19 situation. So in terms of meeting in the briefing, if we normally use physical meeting, we can transform to online meeting. But the most important is what type of platform. Make sure each invitees are fully aware how to use the platform, and they have the appropriate link to join the meeting. Then the invitation must go directly to the people that need to attend, because if we invite, for example, to the senior manager, we invite the meeting, we send an invitation email to senior manager. So maybe the senior manager cannot attend. So maybe he need to pass over to his subordinate. So make sure when we invite, make sure we invite a proper person which need to attend the meeting. Then make sure is online people is different with physical. Even physical also we need to start on time, but if online meeting, definitely we need to do the meeting on time. I say it 3 times, on time. It's more important. It's most important. Number 2, in terms of players, because normally if in KL International Airport, if we conducted full-scale exercise, it will involve 5 stations from KLIA, fire station from Cyberjaya, fire station from Sepang, Banting. So maybe because still in our pre-planning process, we might limit number of responders. So we will we reduce the potential spread of COVID-19 as well accordingly. Maybe we can reduce, but depend on the discussion with the external agency. So third mitigation option is normally we have a lot so many role players, pelakon lah, cakap Melayu dia pelakon. So role players ni they will play the role as a person on board, normally as casualties as well as next of kin or family. So what we can do is either we reduce the numbers of role players. Normally in KLIA, our role player for POB is around 200 packs. So normally we invited those students from college, normally from nursing college. So nursing college definitely the funny thing is the aircraft will be fully with ladies. 90% ladies, because you know nurses are mostly ladies. So the scenario also mainly involving ladies. So what we can do, we can reduce numbers, or we can do like what Changi did in their full-scale exercise using mannequin, okay, or using card. So in the card they have the name of the passengers, nationality, gender, injuries. So the responders still. So you can see the round green rounded sticker here. So this represent the triage card. The triaging process. So when the health or for example for health personnel or medical personnel receive the PACS card, so they will decide whether according to injuries this passenger is yellow, green, or maybe red. So they will use the sticker to indicate what type of priority or type of injury for this role player. Same goes with next of kin. We can reduce number of next of kin to participate in the exercise. So evaluator and observer definitely. So evaluator we have around 20 of evaluators normally in the normal days, but we can limit the